sexual reproduction in plants. Living things need to reproduce. Plants reproduce by both modes, sexual as well as asexual. The plants that reproduce sexually have the reproductive structures called the flowers. Flowers contain the reproductive structures, stamens and carpels. Stamens are male reproductive organs and carpel is female reproductive organ. These two parts directly participate in sexual reproduction. Stamens produce pollen grains, while carpels contain the egg cells. A flower has four main parts: sepals, petals, stamens, and carpels. Sepals form the outermost whorl, which is often green in color. Sepals collectively form calyx. Petals are often brightly colored and collectively form corolla. They serve to attract bees, birds, etc., which are the agents of pollination. Female reproductive parts. The individual units are called the carpels or pistils. A flower may have one or many carpels, either fused or free. Collectively, all the carpels or pistils are called gynoecium. Each carpel is made up of the basal ovary, middle style, and the upper stigma. The stigma is a sticky structure that receives the pollen grains. The style is hollow and provides a passage for the male gametes to reach the female gametes, the eggs. The ovary is the chamber where there are one or more ovules attached to an axis. Ovule is the structure which gives rise to female reproductive cells and finally develops into seed after fertilization. Male reproductive part of a flower. Individual units of androecium are called the stamens, and collectively all stamens are known as androecium. Each stamen has a thread-like filament at the free end of which a lobed structure anther is attached. Anther is the part which produces pollen grains. Let us study the structure of anther. Anther is a bilobed structure, each lobe having two chambers known as microsporangia. Each microsporangium has plenty of microspore mother cells. Each microspore mother cell divides meiotically to form 4 haploid microspores, and the structure is known as tetrad. Therefore, a typical angiosperm anther is tetrasporangiate. Each cell of the tetrad transforms into a pollen grain. The pollen grain develops 2 cell walls, a resistant outer wall, the exine, and an inner wall, the intine. Its nucleus undergoes mitosis to form 2 cells, vegetative cell and generative cell. Types of flowers. There are different types of flower according to the presence of different parts in the same floral structure. A flower is referred to as complete if all 4 floral organs, sepal, petal, stamen and pistil are present in the same flower structure. An incomplete flower lacks any one or more of these parts. Begonia, rue anemone are examples of incomplete flowers. Flowers of rue anemone lack petals. Its sepals look like petals. There is another way to categorize the flowers. Flowers that contain both sexual parts, stamen and pistil, are called perfect or bisexual. Flowers like hibiscus, lily are very good examples of bisexual flowers, while others that contain either stamen or pistil only are called imperfect or unisexual flowers. Flowers of papaya plant are unisexual. They are present on separate plants. Pollination. For sexual reproduction to begin in plants, the pollen grains which produce the male gametes must be transferred to the stigma for sexual reproduction to occur in a plant. The transfer and deposition of pollen grains from an anther to a stigma is called pollination. Pollination is of 2 types: self-pollination and cross-pollination. If the pollens are transferred to the stigma of the same flower, it is known as self-pollination or autogamy. In this case, the pollen grains are transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or different flower present on the same plant. When the pollen grains are transferred from the anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower present on a different plant of the same species, it is known as cross-pollination or allogamy. Cross-pollination or allogamy. Pollination is the transfer of pollens from the stamens to the stigma. The pollens are often carried by insects and other animals, but sometimes by wind and water too. So we can divide the agents of pollination into 2 categories: abiotic agents and biotic agents. Anemophily and hydrophily are the 2 abiotic ways through which pollens can be transferred, whereas biotic agents are insects, birds, bats, etc. Let us understand each with the help of visuals. Anemophily means pollination through air. It is the simplest form of pollination through wind. The wind-pollinated flowers show the following characteristics. This is grass. The flowers are unisexual. The pollen grains are light, smooth, dry and not easily wetted by rain and are produced in enormous quantities. Stamens are freely exposed with versatile anthers. The stigmas are large, feathery and well exposed to catch the pollen grains. Example: cereals. Hydrophily means pollination through water. It is the mode of pollination involving the transfer of pollen grains through water. This is Vallisneria. The plant is dioecious. On maturity, the male flowers get detached from the parent plant and float up and come to the surface of water. At the same time, the female flowers also rise up to the surface of water by straightening its coiled stalk. The detached male flower comes near a floating female flower and pollination takes place with the help of water current. Soon after the pollination, the long stalks of the female flower begin to coil down to bud level where the fruit ripens. Hydrophily does not occur in all aquatic plants. Many aquatic plants bear their flowers above the surface of water and are pollinated by wind or insects. Entomophily means pollination through insects. Insects visit the flowers not to do pollination, but to collect nectar, edible pollen, or for shelter. When an insect visits a flower, its body gets dusted with pollen grains. When the loaded insect visits another flower, its body brushes against the stigma and by chance drops the pollen. Bees, moths, butterflies, all these act as the agents of pollination. Insect-pollinated flowers are usually large, conspicuous, and brightly colored. These flowers usually have a pleasant fragrance and sweet nectar. Their pollen grains are usually rough or sticky. Ornithophily. Pollination through birds. Birds can obtain only one staple food from flowers, and that is nectar. A bird goes to suck nectar from a flower and the pollens get stick to its body. The bird-pollinated flowers have funnel-shaped or tubular corollas which are brightly colored. The common bird pollinators are hummingbirds, sunbirds, and honey eaters. Chirotrophily. Pollination through bats. Bats bring about pollination only in the tropics. Bats are nocturnal animals and the flowers they visit are large and emit a strong odor. They move very fast and transport pollen to long distances. Bat-pollinated flowers generally produce more nectar and they also have a large number of stamens. After pollination, next step of sexual reproduction is fertilization. Fertilization is defined as the fusion of gametes to produce a new organism. In case of plants, the process leads to the creation of new seeds that grow into new plants. Only after pollination, when pollen has landed on the stigma, a chain of events takes place that ends in the development of seeds. Once the pollen grain reaches the stigma, pollen grain germinates, forming a narrow tube known as pollen tube. Dividing generative nucleus form two male gametes or sperm cells. Pollen tube grows down through the style to the ovary. The pollen tube carries two male gametes as well as vegetative cell. The vegetative cell degenerates after some time. And two male gametes enter embryo sac through micropyle. Once the pollen tube enters the embryo sac, its tip dissolves and the male gametes are liberated. One of the male gametes fuses with the egg cell present between the synergids and produces a diploid zygote. The other male gamete fuses with the diploid secondary nucleus and produces a triploid primary endosperm nucleus. This is called double fertilization. Double fertilization describes the process by which two sperm cells unite with different nuclei of the female gametophyte. There are 3 fusions that take place in the embryo sac. First, the fusion of 2 polar nuclei to form secondary nucleus. Second, the fusion of 1 male gamete with the egg. Third, the fusion of other male gamete with the secondary nucleus to form primary endosperm nucleus. Hence, the process is called triple fusion. As a result of fertilization, the following changes are observed in a flower. After fertilization, the zygote undergoes a number of mitotic divisions and forms a multicellular embryo. The product of triple fusion undergoes mitotic divisions to form a mass of cells called endosperm. Endosperm serves as a source of nutrition for the developing embryo. The antipodals and synergids disintegrate. The outer and inner integuments of ovule becomes the seed coat of the seed. With more time passing, the fertilized ovule goes on to form a seed through a series of processes. The ovule becomes seed. The ovary becomes fruit. Once the fruit forms, the rest of the flower parts die and fall away. The seed contains the embryo, which is made up of the radicle or future root and the plumule or future shoot. The supply of food for the embryo is from cotyledons until it has formed sufficient roots and leaves to obtain its own food. Each ovary contains 1 or more ovules. Some flowers, such as avocados, only have 1 ovule in their ovary, so their fruit has only 1 seed. Many flowers, such as kiwi fruit, have lots of ovules in their ovary, so their fruit contains many seeds. In pea plant, the ovary is a hollow cavity which contains several ovules. Each ovule gets transformed into a seed.